Great. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming along, and thank you, Pixel Pioneers, for having me. I'm Kardo. I'm a product designer. I've been a designer for nearly 18 years now. I'm not going to be talking about accessibility because, in terms of technical stuff, because there are people who are much better placed than me. But I am going to start a little bit. I'm just here to show off, really. So this is me around 10 years ago. So I was super fit. I was doing stupid stuff like this all the time. And I used to carry this lump of meat on my and on my back everywhere. There isn't a hill or mountain in England and Wales that I haven't climbed up with this guy on my back. I think he is here today. So this was, you can see the facial expression is exactly the same. So this was me about 10 years ago, and I used to do for rides for, I don't know, 70, 80 miles, mountain biking, road biking. And I used to do stupid stuff like this, and I was never good at it, apart from breaking my collarbone. I'd never got anything out of it in terms of skate and snowboard, you know what I mean? And just to show you, this is proof of my eyesight. That's 2 shots through the same hole. I was a kid, ever since I was a kid, I was very good. My dad was in the army, so he's rubbed off on me. I was in Turkey as a kid, and this guy had messed around with the sight. And I figured out how he messed around with the sight, and I won every single item in his. I nearly made him bankrupt. The next day I went back, he refused to let me play. So, but my eyesight was 100%, like very sharp. But overnight, this whole thing changed. I was having a haircut in an area in London which is not very, back in those days, never used to be that friendly. And I was in the chair, and all of a sudden I asked the barber, I said, "What's that police car doing outside?" And he said, "There are no police cars outside." And I realized I was seeing flashing lights in my eyes. So I went home, and I went to bed. The next day I was fine, so I thought maybe I'm just tired. Then a few weeks later, it started again, and then more frequent. And it became on a daily thing 3, 4 times. And I was still very fit. I was still exercising and stuff. But then it became so annoying. I was getting disorientated and stuff. So I went to a specialist who didn't do anything apart from telling me you have migraine. And when I explained I don't have migraine because I don't have headaches, and he explained to me there are different types of migraines, etc. So this went on for about 2 years, back in and out of hospital. And in the end, I just basically said to them, "Please, just do an MRI, because it's really strange that it's not my eyes, it's not migraine." So I went for an MRI. I still remember, it was a Sunday. I was on the MRI. When I came out, the technician was standing over me, and he said, "Are you on your own?" I said, "Yes." "How are you feeling?" I said, "I'm feeling good." "Yeah, how did you get there?" I said, "I'm driving." And he said, "Are you okay to go home by yourself?" And I knew I was screwed by then. So on a Monday, they called me and they said, "Come on Wednesday to the hospital and bring somebody with you," which is very reassuring. So I went, I went there, and I was waiting for the doctor to come along. So he comes in with a nurse, and she was pushing a contraption. It looked like a computer from the 70s. Literally, it was this old system, and he put it in front of me, and he put this on the scanner, on the monitor. And I said, "What is it?" And he said, "It's a lesion." And I was like, "No shit. I can see it's something." But he said, "We actually don't know what it is." And this is coming from one of the top surgeons in the country. And he said, we don't know what it is, but it's quite large. It's about the size of a lemon. And literally, at that moment, I thought, could be worse, could be a grapefruit. So, so I said, what are you going to do about it? And he said, I need to ask a friend. So he went and they did their team meetings and stuff. And he came back, he said, it's very deep, but we can operate. I said, okay, that's great news. But he said to me, first, tell me what is your job? And I said, I'm a designer. Quote unquote, he straight away said, shit. I was like, brilliant, what is going on? And he said, oh, it's in your visual cortex. So for example, this image here, it's taken from bottom up, this MRI. And you can see that white area, that's where the tumor is. And it's in my visual cortex on my right-hand side. So he said, we can operate, but what's your job? I said, I'm a designer. I said, why? And he said, yeah, because you might lose a bit of your peripheral vision. And I was like, how bad can it be, a bit of peripheral vision? So I had seen people doing brain operations while they are playing guitars and stuff like that. During the operation, they are awake, and they do that because they want to minimize damage, so they can direct them. So I said, I want to be awake, and they said no. So I begged a few times. Anyway, in the end, they agreed to give me a awake surgery. I'm going to show you an image of me during the surgery. It was supposed to be 3 hours. It took 9 hours. And I was like that for 9 hours. 3 surgeons were working on me, and I could see them going in and out of a room for the break, and they were eating Kit Kats. I kid you not. When I finished when I got back on my feet, I took them a box of Kit Kats because they were eating and that was making me laugh. The thing is, during the operation, there was this occupational therapist, this nurse, who was doing like cognition stuff with me, like shapes and numbers and sentences, words, and all these puzzles and stuff. She had her cards laminated in that bright light in the operation room, and I couldn't see shit. And I said to her, I said, when I'm out of this hospital, let me know, and I come and redesign everything for you for free, because I couldn't see anything. So during the operation, I said to the surgeon, I said, something went wrong, and he said to me, oh, don't worry about it, it will be fine. So I came out awake still, but during the operation, because it took so long, I said, can somebody call my partner, because I'm worried now. It was supposed to be 3 hours, but now it's taking 6, 7. And I gave him the number, and the nurse said, what shall I tell your partner? I said, tell him stitches. Because we were literally laughing so much during the operation. It was one of the best experiences I've had. No, seriously, I don't take life seriously, but that was a really amazing experience. The doctors, the nurses, about 21 people in the room. Students came to watch because you don't see that a lot. But they made it so easy. And I always say they made it easier than visiting a dentist. It was jokes and innuendos and basically puns the entire time, which was lovely. So I came out. Hello.
What's your name?
Hello.
What's your name?
Hello. I'm joking. Just came out of an 8-hour brain surgery.
Awake
Awake.
for 8 hours?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it was easier than going to a dentist.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was really, really good fun. I had a lot of jokes and laughs with the surgeons and everybody else.
What's your name?
K to the A, to the R, to the D, to the O. It was good.
Fun?
I was fully awake all the way to the end until they stitched me up. So basically, this gives you a picture. I did this with people for ages. People used to come and I used to pretend I don't know who they are. Yeah. A friend of mine came from Thailand to visit me, and nobody was home. And she knocked on the door, and her face was like because she didn't know what to expect. Somebody's had a brain surgery. And I knew I got her. I drove her mental for like half an hour until my partner came home. And when she realized I was taking the piss, she just lost it. So we are here to talk about inclusive design and basically design for everybody, just to give you an idea of what the impact was of my operation. In a very simplistic way, that I always thought your left eye sends signal to the right side of your brain, and your right side sends signals to the brain, to the left side of your brain. But it's actually, I learned that it's not true. Your eyes are split into two. The left side of both your eyes send signal to your right side of your brain, and the right side of both of your eyes send signals to the left. So my eyes are still 100% sharp and perfect. But when the signal goes from my eye to the brain, this is where it's broken. So the signal goes there, but the brain goes to me, what do you want me to do with this? Because the brain doesn't know what to do with this. So what this means in real life, and this is a scan of my eyes, you can see the black side is where the brain doesn't receive any data. On the right hand side, it's completely fine. Those white spots you see in the black area, that's all false positive. So it's actually pure black. What this means in reality, and doesn't matter if it's a mountain, a castle, or a ping pong ball. When somebody with healthy eyesight looks at this, they see this. But when I look at this, I see that. So my field of vision is a clear 50-50 cut. It's not there. And again, if somebody looks at, this is my son again, once he was a bit older, I see this. So it's quite disturbing. I've been living with it for 10 years. Now it's a bit better. But in the beginning, it was very disturbing. When I came back out of the hospital, my eyes were blurry. I couldn't see a lot. And it took me a long time to kind of adjust. And then the effects became clearer and clearer. So in the initial stages, we are talking about accessibility and inclusive design. In the initial stages, I was relying a lot on screen readers, a lot of like voice to text and stuff like that. But when I asked the hospital, they said to me, this is for life. There is nothing you could do about it. But they gave me, this is the thing, I work in healthcare tech now. But I've realized even when I used to go back to my surgeon, they still use the same computer. They still use the same system. Things haven't moved on. The world in tech has moved on miles and miles away from this, but they are still where they were 10, 15 years ago. They gave me this game that red dot was moving around, and we had to click it when you saw it. We had to click on the computer on your mouse when you saw it. But it was so slow, everybody could do that. Like, you could scan easily, so it wasn't helping me. So I started doing normal games, like speed games, and helping me scan everything. But yeah, and then I've managed to kind of retrain myself to scan the world quite quickly and understand what's going on around. It's still very difficult, but I've learned to live with it. This a page from Wikipedia about my condition. You see the desktop and the line length and the spacing and all these things. And on this side, you see the mobile version. For me, when I look at my monitor, or there is monitor or my phone screen, I still see this. So it doesn't, as I said, it doesn't matter how big, small something is, I always just see half of it. But if you look at the desktop version, my eyes have to travel all the way back to the beginning. And because of my peripheral vision, by the time I get back to the beginning, I don't know where I was. So I miss where I was because I can't track anymore. On the mobile, it's the same, but because the distance is much smaller, the problem is not that much of the thing is not that much of a problem. So I still do most of my reading and stuff on mobile. So that's one thing, just basics of responsiveness, getting responsiveness of your website or product right, getting your line heights right, getting your letter spacings right. I'm not going to go again, as I said, I'm not going to go into technicality of accessibility here, but just some basic stuff. I read and write in right to left languages. You might think it's easier, but it's actually more difficult because subconsciously, when we are reading, our peripheral vision is a word or two ahead of us. And other languages, I don't have that. So it's much more difficult. So this is something to consider if you are working with multiple languages or language system. So it affects people with visual impairment depending on the direction of your text. Funny story, I became epileptic. Sorry, it's all about doom and gloom, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Don't worry, it's got a happy ending. Uh, uh, I was watching with the family. I was watching X Factor. Well, I wasn't watching. I had my head down, and then I lifted my head. They were taking the Mickey out of this guy on stage, and I looked at him. He looked like a chipmunk. The guy. And I said, why is that guy? I said, why is he dressed like a chipmunk? Then I realized Simon Cowell looked like a chipmunk. Uh, I turned around to look at my family. They were watching TV like this. So they were all like chipmunks. So I realized this was something wrong. So we went back to the hospital. And this went on. I had visual hallucinations, a little bit like I don't take drugs, but they said it's like basically doing mushrooms or acid or whatever. But this went on for a few weeks, and things were changing. And one day things would be a cubist painting. One day would be something. All things were all over the place, and this made me realize. Actually, made me appreciate our normal vision, our normal interpretation of the world around us. Because now I completely believe that we all see different things. It depends on how our brain interprets it into images. And on the last few days, everything became very small in front of me. I'm already 6'3", but then everything became very small. When my partner went to get a taxi to take us home, I was literally like that. I was laughing my head off. I was thinking, how am I going to get in this bloody matchbox? Yeah. So this went on for a good few weeks, and luckily, it basically disappeared. But I still have my funny moments, even though I've managed to live without the peripheral vision. I've managed to basically cope with everything, but I still have my moments. So I bump into people. People want to pick fights. I bump into this guy, and I've been so conditioned to apologize to people when I bump into them. I bump into these poles, and my initial reaction is, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, and I said to my partner and my son, I said, I'm going to out you guys because they always steal my drinks and they steal my food. But also, sometimes I eat 50% of my dish because I don't see the other 50%. Yeah. We went out for dinner and I said to my partner, I said, that was amazing. I wish it was just a little bit more. And she laughed at me, and I looked at my table, my plate, and it was literally like that. Yeah. So this has been an experience, and I'm happy to stand here and share this experience with you. But in reality, what have I learned from all this? I've learned quite a few things about myself, but also about the world we live in. The first thing is, I would say, on my personal level, I've learned to prioritize what is actually important. I've always been a relaxed person, but I'm even more chilled. I don't care about a lot of stuff. I don't care about the small stuff. All I care about is my friends, my family, and the important stuff around me. I don't never stress about stupid stuff like work, for example. So, and I've also realized because I was the one who was doing everything, like the driving, the images I showed you in the beginning. I said I'm showing off. I'm not showing off because I just wanted to show you how I was, and now I can't do any of that anymore. I can't drive. I can't cycle. My fitness condition is not. So there is a lot of stuff that changed in my personal life. I had to learn how to ask for help, which was the most difficult thing, and also it's still difficult. But people are very helpful when they realize that something is wrong with them. And also, I've realized people are very resilient. We are very resilient, and we can deal with a lot of stuff, and we get used to it, and we cope with life. So that's in my personal life. In my professional life, I promise you, it's changed in the back. In my professional life, it's getting better, but it's a little bit of a stigma when you say I'm disabled at work. People raise an eyebrow, especially when you're a half-blind designer, which is not many people have heard of. But I've also learned that people understand if you do the job well, nobody cares in terms of. But there are some instances where people think, okay, can you do the job? So I've been doing it for 18 years now. So yes, but in terms of my attitude towards work, I was always working in creative agencies. It was all about building and designing the coolest thing, latest technology. But all that, my approach to design, it changed. It became more empathetic, it became more user-focused, it became more purpose-led. So since then, I've managed to go up and I've managed to work with bigger clients, with startups, with multinationals. I don't want to show work in here, but out of all these big projects that I've done, I have done one of my smallest ever projects that I have done for a startup, a very small startup. A doctor once contacted me and said, oh, about 80% of our patients forget about 95% of the information we give them the minute they leave. And I thought, that's me, because I'm the same. My partner she has to take notes when I talk to her. And that's because of anxiety, it's because education, language barriers, and all these things. So we thought, let's just start with something really simple, something like almost like paint. That we load up an image of that area. We use it to annotate, a bit like FigJam or Miro. And then we have a library of images. We select from that library, and then we annotate on it, we share it, we email it, whatever. We add it to their records. And this took literally a few weeks. The thing that took the longest was the illustrations. But this is incredible results for something simple like that, in terms of the engagement, in terms of the people understanding the medical terminologies, people adhering to their care plan and their medication, etc. And that's when I realized, I said, this industry is in proper need of things like this. And now I'm working in health, and I'm really enjoying it, because this is the first time that I actually think I'm doing something good that actually is useful for people. So I don't have much time left, but what I've got some closing advice for a few cohorts of us. So for companies, even though everybody talks about accessibility, but it's still not something that is front of mind of people. See this lovely lady in a wheelchair in yellow t-shirt using a computer. It's the most cliched thing you see about disability. Yeah, you can't sum up disability in this. And I've seen this a few times in different color t-shirts, because they're for different brands. If you reverse search that image just in the yellow version, You get nearly 200 of them, and the companies all talk about the same thing. This tells me they don't actually care. It's a tick box. Okay, we have on the website a lady in a wheelchair using a computer, and it's a tick box. I don't believe in any of it. If you want to do it properly. It's embarrassing, actually. If you want to take it seriously, bake it into your processes. And I've got advice for us designers and engineers. I think we are in a very privileged position to make changes and design products that's actually useful for people. We are in a position that we can influence a lot of experiences for people. But to do that, I think we should start from a source of truth. And that source of truth is basically talking to people, talking to disabled people, talking to people about their daily challenges. I mean, there are about 1.3 billion people in the world that live with disability. Each person of them, each one of us, or each one of them, live with their own challenges and daily struggles. So when we design something, get people involved that are struggling with the pain points, because we are your best designers. In the example before, I related to that issue, and I put my heart and soul into it, even though it was a simple solution, but I knew exactly what to design for, what I was designing for. So if you get people involved in the beginning, then I think you are onto designing some good stuff. And also in terms of design, I mean, this is not mine. This is from Microsoft, I believe. In terms of, I'm working with a lot of carers and a lot of kind of disabled people, a lot of residents who deal with their disabled loved ones. And you learn a lot about different disabilities and different needs. So for example, it's not all about somebody being in a wheelchair. There are things like permanent and temporary and situational. So for example, how do we design for somebody who's blind versus somebody who's got a temporary thing like a cataract, or somebody who's in a situation where they might be briefly distracted. So how do we design for a driver that can use a navigation system without actually taking their eye off the road? So there are these things when we design, we need to basically just consider as we go through the process and bake it into the initial process. Don't make it be companies think it's expensive, so they make it an afterthought usually. And people with disabilities, I mean, I showed you a lemon in the beginning, but there is a cliche saying that says life hands you a lemon sometimes. Yeah, and people say make lemon juice. Well, it's a good idea to say that, but also there is only so much juice you could squeeze out of lemon. The thing I would say is learn from it, learn from your experience, share it, and accept help. And try and help some people along the way, and when you go through your life. And hopefully that's what I'm doing here. So just to close off, we've got 1 minute left. I promised you, I said I'll end on a cheerful note. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I did my radiotherapy, I did my chemotherapy, and I managed.
As loud as you can.
I managed to ring that bell. Thank you.